Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to the heist and battle of North Hollywood. Now, I know nothing about this aside from I think this involves armed robbers. So I don't know whether they've robbed a bank or a jewelry store or something like that, but I think that there's armed robbers trying to get away from maybe a rival gang, maybe the police. I have no clue. The video's by Popo Medic. He's done a ton of these types of videos. They're fantastic, really great storyteller. I'm eager just to find out about what happened here because stuff like this never happens really in London. At least to my knowledge, I've never heard of something, or even though I don't know what happened here, you never really hear of heists or hold-ups happening in London. So just to learn about these sort of things, I find super cool, super interesting. Let's do it.
Friday, February 28th, 1997. Two professional bank robbers overtake a North Hollywood branch in Los Angeles. Sporting a military-grade arsenal and covered nearly head to toe in body armor.
Wow,
and as fate would have it, an LAPD officer in the right place at the right time witnessed the moment the gunman entered the bank. The police soon had the men surrounded, expecting the men to barricade inside. But instead, the two robbers swiftly exited the bank, spraying over 1,000 rounds at police. Over 44 minutes, in 2,000 rounds exchanged, the streets of North Hollywood turned into a living hell.
Wow. 2,000 rounds. That is just a war zone, literally.
The two gunmen behind the North Hollywood shootout first met at a Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, California. Larry Phillips Jr., a Los Angeles native and proficient real estate scammer, and Emil Matasareanu, a Romanian immigrant and college graduate with an above-average IQ. They were close in age and talked everything weightlifting and bodybuilding and whatever else the fuck gym rats talk about. Chicken breasts, probably. Despite the contrast of their upbringings, the two quickly became close friends outside of the gym. They bonded over firearms, philosophical ideas, they talked about their tough childhoods, and their mutual hatred for authority, as Larry Phillips Jr. grew up around an ex-convict father who struggled with the law, and Matasareanu, who grew up watching his home country of Romania violently collapse in 1989 on live TV.
So both of these guys had, a lot of, they'd been through a really challenging upbringing, so that's obviously going to leave its marks on them.
Their hatred for the world and the figures who ran it ran deep. In October of 1993, the two found themselves in some serious trouble when they were traffic stopped by an undercover Glendale detective while operating a stolen rental car. When the detective made contact with the vehicle, Phillips gave the officer a fake name. He then asked the men who the vehicle belonged to which Matasareanu replied that the vehicle belonged to Phillips' mother. And after making checks, the detective ordered Phillips to step out of his vehicle, at which point the detective located a Glock 17 with a 33-round extended magazine in Phillips' waistband. Matasareanu, still inside the vehicle, then tucked his pistol beneath the seat. Backup arrived, and both men were taken into custody. The vehicle was seized and a laundry list of weapons and suspicious items were recovered from within, ranging from a Norinco, 1,700 rounds of 7.62, 3 Chinese-made 75-round drum magazines, 6 smoke bombs, 2 IEDs, a gas mask, wigs, 3 different California license plates, and 2 spray cans of gray hair coloring. That's right, these jokers were locked and loaded with some Just for Men. Now it's a party. Larry Phillips was charged with conspiracy.
So were they on their way to rob the bank at this point? That's what I would imagine, because why else would they have so much, weaponry on them?
Conspiracy to commit robbery, grand theft auto, unlawful weapons activity, carrying a loaded and concealed firearm, and felony perjury. On December 27th, both men were only sentenced to less than 1 year in jail.
Wow, really? Just a year? When the enemies relax makes them toil. When full starved and when settled make them move. Sun Tzu. I knew it would be Sun Tzu.
On June 14th, 1995, in the Los Angeles neighborhood of Winnetka, at approximately 12 p.m., Phillips and Matasareanu stalked a Brinks truck. They followed the armored vehicle until it made a stop. They watched as the guard got out and made a delivery. As the guard returned and opened the back doors of the armored truck and was at his most vulnerable, Phillips and Matasareanu opened fire with AK-47s. Both guards were shot, and $120,000 was stolen.
To have the balls to do something like this. I mean, for 120 grand, obviously they probably didn't know how much was in the vehicle, but 120 grand for all of this, not worth it.
The Brinks guards luckily survived, and the robbery quickly made headlines. Given the level of violence,
Those
tactics
poor
deployed,
guards.
and weaponry used, the FBI took exceptional interest, who they deemed at the time the AK-47 bandits. And it wasn't long until they struck again. On March 27,
Holy shit, so they did it multiple times.
1996, in the area of Woodland Hills, Phillips and Matassarino attempted to overtake another Brinks truck, but miserably failed. They once again stalked the armored vehicle and opened fire after it stopped, but the driver took off. They chased the vehicle briefly before fleeing the scene, and once they got away, they ditched their vehicle and set it on fire. Despite the recent failure, only 2 months later, the men graduated to bank robbery. And on the morning of May 2nd, they initiated their first ever takeover heist.
They got a taste for it. They thought, yeah, you know, we can turn this into a profession, into a career.
Opened the bank doors, fired warning shots into the ceiling, swept the vault, and walked out in under 6 minutes with nearly $750,000.
Whoa, big score.
And high on success after making it out clean, they hit their second score only 29 days later. On the morning of May 31st, Phillips and Matassarino took over a Bank of America branch in Winnetka.
These guys, I mean, you've probably got close to $1 million now. Let's say 450 grand each. Why wouldn't you quit while you're ahead? Like, what the hell? Just ridiculous.
Walking out once again with just under $800,000, accumulating a net worth of approximately $1.6 million in 30 days. And by this point, the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force and local law enforcement were rattled. The suspects were virtually uncatchable. It was evident that the two robbers had gone from violent outlaws to swift professionals in a short period of time, prompting the FBI to change the duo's name from the AK-47 Bandits to the High Incident Bandits.
I mean, wow, I'm impressed by how quickly they've, turned it into such an efficient thing. Obviously, people that got hurt in the crossfire.
Over the next several months, a massive joint operation spanning multiple law enforcement agencies within Los Angeles County sent officers to stage outside of banks and other potential targets of the High Incident Bandits. But the robbers at the time went on hiatus, upgrading their arsenal and mostly planning their biggest score yet. Phillips and Matassarino narrowed down their options to branch 384 of Bank of America, located in North Hollywood, California. It was the largest bank in the area by far and had the potential to net them at least $2 million for 10 minutes work. It was the optimal location for many reasons. Professional bank robbers tend to hit branches located on street corners for a better escape egress. Branch 384 was a single building lot, meaning not only was it a corner branch, but it had two corners of the lot, with both freeway access nearby and city side streets leading into the valley. It was the perfect stage for the perfect heist. They chose the date of Friday, February 28th, and they loaded up for war. They attached level 3A Kevlar body armor to the front and back of both their torso and extremities, basically making them pretty much invincible against the police who have 9mm. And speaking of bullets, holy shit! They loaded out with Norinkos with full auto conversions, 75-round Chinese magazine drums, a semi-auto HK91, two Berettas, and a fucking Bushmaster XM15 dissipator. They then loaded several thousand rounds of spare ammunition into the trunk of their white 1987 Chevrolet Celebrity. And both men knew there was no going back. They dug their graves in their past robberies, and after getting busted once, they knew they would be facing life in prison, unspoken, but likely even fearful of one another, and the idea of their counterpart cooperating with authorities in exchange for a lighter sentence. They knew from here on.
The paranoia must have been on 100. You know, is this guy gonna rat? Is he gonna, you know, throw me away to get himself off? Oh my God, people that do this sort of thing, they're completely different.
Now, contact with law enforcement could only end one way. And on the morning of the robbery, the men each took an unknown dosage of phenobarbital, a central nervous system depressant to basically Master Chief the shit out of their nerves. They suited up, drove to the bank, synchronized their watches, and at 9:17 a.m., Larry Phillips and Emil Mastorinu clashed through the doors of Branch 384, firing rounds into the ceiling and declaring aloud, "This is a fucking holdup."
Wow, this is crazy.
While on routine patrol, as fate would have it, LAPD patrol officer Martin Perello entered the bank's intersection of Archwood and Agnes when he spotted the two heavily armed gunmen entering the bank at 9:17 a.m. And just like that, the milliseconds before the heist started, it was already over.
5840, requesting assistance. We have a possible 211 in progress at the Bank of America. Bank of America. Located in north of Kittredge. We have shots fired.
Inside the bank, the gunmen took over while continuing to open fire into the ceiling. And after gaining everyone's compliance, Phillips and Matasarinu began shooting at the bulletproof door that gave access to the bank tellers and the vault. The door, which was only made to withstand small caliber ammunition, broke open after a few shots from their modified Norinkos. The men then forced the tellers to fill their bags with the money from the vault. As they held the door, watching over their shoulders, they realized there was a big problem. There was way less money in the vault than they had anticipated. The adrenaline partnered with the intense stress led the two men to unravel, and bursts of gunfire continued solely out of rage. Matasarinu became so enraged that he emptied a 75-round drum magazine into the vault, destroying the rest of the money. In total, the tellers only packed $300 and $3,000.
Only 300 grand. But obviously when you're thinking it's going to be like 2 mil, yeah, I can get the frustration. But isn't that insane? Only 300 grand.
Meanwhile, outside of the bank, LAPD officers Perello and Farrell enter the perimeter of a parking lot across the street and are soon joined by multiple officers rushing in to the area. An anxious Larry Phillips noticed the silence outside of the bank. There was no longer any foot traffic outside, or even a single car on the usually busy roadway.
Something's up.
He walked halfway out of the bank and heard nothing but the freeway noise coming from a half a mile away. And in that moment, he realized the police were waiting. At which point both men could hear sirens of the cavalry of the LAPD responding, as well as the sound of exploding dye packs in the money bags, rendering the bills completely useless. The officers outside were coordinating.
Alarm bells. This is when alarm bells start ringing in your head. What now?
What they thought would be a barricade situation, until Larry Phillips stormed out of the North ATM lobby entrance, spraying rounds at officers with his Norinco, immediately injuring 7 officers and 3 civilians from 200 feet away. They returned fire at the robbers, but their 9mm had little effect on the heavily armed gunmen. LAPD officer James Zaborvan, only a few months out of the academy, gets a shot off on Phillips, wounding him. The gunman turns his attention to Zaborvan, who dives across his fellow officers, blocking the shot. He then seeks cover into a nearby dental office, where a dentist by the name of Jorge Montez quickly turns his dental office into a makeshift emergency room. And at this time, the elite members of the prestigious LAPD SWAT team arrived on scene. Many of the members, at the time, were even founding fathers of the LAPD's first ever SWAT team, who had a fierce reputation and a highly successful rate.
So these guys know what they are doing.
Of solving the problems within high-risk incidents.
No matter what the odds are, you fight through it. That's paramount. LAPD SWAT, secret passion. Whoa.
Phillips retrieves the HK-91 and begins sniping news helicopters with 308, hitting a KCAL-9 chopper's rear stabilizer, until a group of officers who raided a nearby gun store to obtain higher caliber weapons returned and landed a shot on the HK-91, disabling it. Phillips picked back up his Norinco until his weapon stovepiped. Not knowing how to clear the malfunction, he pulled out his Beretta and continued firing at police. And suddenly, realizing it was the end, Larry Phillips took his own Beretta and ended his life.
What? Wow. Crazy. So rather than go to prison, he just thought, I'm out. Wild, man. This guy lived by the sword, died by the sword, eh?
Matasarinu tried to escape by hijacking a civilian's truck, but failed. The SWAT team saw this and took advantage of Matasarinu's exposed position and moved in to engage him while taking cover behind a patrol vehicle.
I hope they get the other guy.
The SWAT team opened fire, but they couldn't find an angle on Matasarinu, taking cover behind the engine block of his vehicle. LAPD SWAT officer Rick Massa decided to prone out and found the exposed feet of Matasarinu, got a good sight picture, and opened fire, hitting Matasarinu twice in the ankle. Matasarinu collapsed and began skipping rounds towards the SWAT team from beneath the vehicle while laying on his back. And with Matasarinu's body now exposed and still skipping rounds towards SWAT officers, the SWAT team opened fire. And after being shot 29 times, Matasarinu surrenders to police.
29 times, I guess because he had all that bulletproof on his body, none penetrated, but dang, that is a lot. 29.
As they secure Matasarinu's weapon and place him in handcuffs to search for additional weapons, Officer Rick Massa stands over him. Matasarinu looks up at Massa and asks him to finish him off, to which Officer Massa declines and says, "I'll see you in court." Matasarinu succumbed to his wounds and died 56 minutes later. As the deadly shootout came to an end,
they both died. What a story, man. This could be a movie, easily.
The SWAT team entered the Bank of America to rescue the employees and customers from the vault. After the incident occurred, the LAPD realized the importance of firepower after realizing their 9mm fucking sucked. And they received 600 M16s from the Pentagon, officially birthing the requirement of patrol rifles.
Wow, man. The aftermath. This is just an insane story.
1 year after the incident occurred, 19 LAPD officers received medals of valor and were even commended by then President Bill Clinton. Despite the injuries, the shootout is regarded as a success for police, who were severely outgunned and managed to prevent any civilian or officer fatalities. The pop culture and lore of the North Hollywood shootout runs deep. From a Megadeth song to a made-for-TV movie, countless documentaries to an op-ed in Rolling Stone magazine. It's estimated that Phillips and Matasarinu fired close to 1,200 rounds, with the LAPD returning close to 650 rounds.
Insane.
The North Hollywood shootout will always be regarded as one of the most dangerous confrontations between robbers and police that America has ever seen.
What a story.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that.
That was incredible. What a story. I mean, just so many thoughts in my mind right now. It's like the balls on those two, Matasarinu and the other guy, to commit themselves to a life of crime to the degree, you're robbing banks for a living. I just don't know, like the courage it takes to do that, and the mindset, and the complete disregard for the people in the banks, because they started, they were firing rounds, without caution almost, just to get what they wanted, to get the money. Just the complete, sociopath nature to be able to do that. It's insane, man. Like, because I think to myself, what would it take for me to be willing to do that? And I just don't know if I could ever, unless I was extremely desperate. But even then, I don't think I could do it. And these two weren't desperate. They could have easily gone out and gotten jobs. One of them had like Popo mentioned, a very high IQ. I'm sure he could have got a well-paid job. I'm sure they just wanted that quick money. The allure of a quick payday. Some people just can't resist it. They're just willing to do whatever it takes for a quick buck. Wild story. I really enjoyed this. Just crazy. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.